Hey, what's going on? Good people in YouTube land. Pardon me, I have to clear my throat. Todd Crusader coming back and doing another tutorial for you. Let me adjust my mic here to make sure you can hear me pretty well. And just doing another tutorial. It's been a while since I haven't been doing a lot of these, and I want to promise you guys that I want to do more of these. But I kind of decided to do my own kind of contemporary worship acoustic guitar, sort of like master class, sort of. Just taking all of the things that I've learned over the years, and I want to dump them into these tutorials. I have a few people that I know personally that I would like to help, and I was thinking about how I can do that, and so I said, well, why don't I just share it with all my 700 plus subscribers out there. By the way, appreciate all you subscribers. Continue to do that. Tell a friend. By the way, shameless plug, I'm going to be releasing some original music here very shortly, and I'm going to be putting it on my YouTube channel. If you appreciate it and you appreciate the tutorials I've been doing, I just want to encourage you to check my music out and share it with a friend, and more on that later. What I'm going to do today is actually a tutorial on how to play. Normally I do a tutorial on just playing songs in general, okay? But I'm going to do a tutorial more so based on how to play in general. And I just think that would be more useful for you in the long run. One of the things that I have noticed about newer guitar players is one of the things they struggle with is chord voicings, okay? Different ways to play chords that give the chord a tone that's contemporary and fresh and not hokey sounding. I have an urban worship vibe to my playing, contemporary, and so it's chords that sound kind of country bluegrass or just straight out of a, my first guitar chord book, I tend to shy away from. I just don't. The tone of those chords just aren't very engaging, and so that's one of the first ways that I can tell that someone is new at the guitar. Now, this little mini master course that I'm going to do, it's going to be over the course of several videos. I thought about doing it all in one video, but it would be like a 45-minute video, probably an hour. I don't know, a long time. So what I've decided to do is I've decided to do these videos by key. Today I'm actually going to focus on the key of G, okay? And the reason why I'm going to start with G is that G is probably from, if you're someone who plays the guitar and sings while you play, G is probably the most useful position to play in. And as you can see, I'm playing the G chord here. And the reason why it's so easy and so helpful to play in because you don't have to really move your hand beyond this third fret, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play all seven of the chords that are typically played in the key of G in contemporary Christian music. Then I'll talk a little bit about the theory behind them, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff that you should avoid, okay? So let me just take you through all 7 of the chords in this key that you typically hear in contemporary Christian music. So I'm just going to play them in a musical way. Okay? And those chords, once again, this is 7 chords because there's 7 intervals in every major key. So with each interval, there's a chord that goes with that. And so just to play through them slowly again, I'm playing a G here. This is actually a G5. I'll explain later. G5, A minor 7, G over B, C add 9, very similar to a C sus2, D major, or you can even do a D2, D sus2, E minor 7, D over F sharp. I'm grabbing the F sharp with my thumb here. If some of you have trouble with that, you can do it this way, you know, with your pointer finger. Doesn't have quite the same sound. But anyway, if you can get that with your thumb, that's good. And then back to the G. Now let's explain this a little bit. This G position, or let me just take a step back. Music in general, every major key, and minor key for that matter, has 7 intervals in the scale. Okay? When we say we're playing in the key of G, that means, in G major, that means that G is the first interval. It's the 1, as we might also call it. Okay? Now here's what you need to know about the intervals. Each interval has a corresponding chord, and the chord for that interval is going to be either major or minor or diminished, but we won't really talk about diminished right now. We'll just stick with the major and the minors, okay? So this is G. This is actually a G5. What's a G5 chord? A G5 chord is really just a chord that has the root and the 5th tones in it. So the root is obviously G, and the 5th interval of G is D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, D. Okay? So basically, this chord is made up of all G and D notes. Here's G, and I'm muting the A string. I'll explain that why later. Here's D, here's G, here's D, here's G. So all G's and D's. So it's a G5. That also means that it's neither major or minor. Now this is cool because it gives it a voicing that's actually very different from this chord. If you ever looked at a guitar chord book and they say play a G major chord, they're going to tell you to do this. It's going to be, you know, this G on the 6th string 3rd fret, and then B on the 5th string 2nd fret, and then open, 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 and then this G on the high E string 3rd fret, and that's your G. Okay, and if we were to play a G C D in this key, this is how beginners tend to play it. Okay? Now, that's technically correct, but the chords are kind of hokey sounding. They're very basic. They're very blah, kind of. And what I prefer is to add a little bit of character to these chords. So let's go back to the position how I showed you how to play it, and then we'll play those same intervals, but slightly different. And I'll give them some movement to let you see what I mean. Okay, so slight subtle differences here. I'm giving it a little bit of movement in the melody, and just adding a little bit of character to that. Now, the first thing that I want to point out about playing it this way, and I'll show you these chords. This is my G5, which I've already showed you. And then this is C add 9. It's called a C add 9, and it's basically the same as this G chord. I'm just moving my middle finger down to the C. It's the exact same. I'm still letting my pointer finger roam free. Okay? And you notice that it was helpful to let my pointer finger roam free in this case, because that's what allowed me to, you see that finger there, I'm playing here to add this little movement. Blind, 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 blind. What I'm doing is I'm adding the 7th interval, okay, to this G, and it kind of makes it a kind of a stripped down version of a G major 7. And so adding the 7th interval to both major and minor chords give the chord a bit of a smoother tone and a just a more polished sound in my view. And as far as contemporary praise and worship is, you know, it's not bluegrassy or country sounding. I prefer that sound, and I think that if you like contemporary worship music, I think you'll find that that's probably the case for you as well. So I'm letting this little pointer finger roam free. This so you get that movement. The other thing you should realize about this is that this is easier to play. This is easier to play than this chord, and then switching to this D, and then switching this to this. Oh, switching to this C, I should say. Then switching to this D, and then back to the G. Notice how much movement is going on in my hands. See, I don't practice playing that way, so some people do it this way as well. So even if you do it this way, whatever. See, that's, you know, I never practiced that, and if I played that way, I would probably have it down smoother, but that's a lot of movement in my hand. Notice how my hand doesn't move here when I play it the way that I showed you previously. My hand doesn't do a lot of moving, and this ring finger anchored on the D note and all those chord transitions, it never moves. So that when you have a place when you're playing, when you have a place on the guitar that you can anchor at least one finger that never moves in your chord transitions, that makes it easier to play. But the convenient thing about this is that it also gives you a smoother, more contemporary sound. And notice I can do this little movement here with this index finger, even when I go to this C. So I can keep that consistent theme going through the whole thing. So this is a D note on that B string, and just from a theory perspective, what you should know about playing the acoustic guitar is anytime you can include the 5th of the key that you're playing in any chord, you're going to add a dimension of similarity. It'll have like a subtle drone type feel that actually, it's pleasant to the ear. I can't really explain why, but it's pleasant to the ear to have that familiar tone in all of the chords. Either the 5th or the 1, which would be G in this case. If you can incorporate those tones in all of your chords, it's going to create a smoother sound, and it's actually going to tie the chord transitions together in a way that traditional textbook chord playing and chord voicings do not. Let's give a good example. Let's give you a good example of that. So we've been working with the G, C, D, first of all, right? But we haven't incorporated these other chords, which is my A minor 7, this G over B, and this E minor 7, just like that. Okay. So let's talk about how those chords reflect the principle that I just mentioned there, of those common tones that show up in every chord. So a traditional textbook way says this is your G, and then the 2, which is A minor, is this chord. Now what we're playing when we play this A minor, we're playing A, then we got our E, then we got our A again, and then we're playing our C. Okay? That's an A minor. But what I play almost exclusively, unless the chord, there are exceptions to this, but in general, I always substitute an A minor 7 for a straight A minor when I'm playing in the key of G. Why is that? Here's an A minor 7, excuse me. Here's an A minor. Here's an A minor 7. It's a very subtle difference, but let me explain to you why you want to do this. Because that A minor 7 has a G in the chord. Instead of that high A that we're playing, that right there, that's an A. We lift that finger up, and now we're playing a G. So we're going from the A to the G. Why does that sound good? It sounds good because G is the tonic. G is the key that we're playing in. And so anytime we can incorporate a G note into the chord, that's going to be good. There again, it's going to tie the chord together and create a smoother chord voicing in your transitions. So I favor going, if you're doing a walk-up, for example, going from this G, just G5, to an A minor 7. Okay? Now let's talk about the third interval here. This is a G over B. You might see it on a chord chart as G/B. Let's just talk about that for a second. This G/B chord, okay, B, first of all, 1, 2, 3. B is the third interval of the scale. Before I get ahead of myself, I want to just point this out. I talked about earlier how there are 7 intervals in a scale. Each interval has a chord associated with that interval. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we're back to the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. Okay, so the 1 is G, the 2 is A, and that's A is minor. Okay, the 3 is B, D, E, F sharp, and then back to G. Okay, so the 1, the 4, and the 5, so G, D, G, C, D. The 1, 4, 5 in every key is always major. They're always major chords. You should know this. This is going to actually help you if you're ever picking out a song by ear. If you know that in each key, the 1, 4, 5 is major, the 2, 3, and 6 are minor, just that knowledge alone will help you figure out what key you're playing in or what key a song is in. And if you can memorize what the 1, 4, 5 is in every key and what the 2, 3, 6 is in every key, it's gonna make it super easy for you to pick out chords by ear. I pick out keys and know what key you're playing in. But I want to, just to emphasize this, the 1, 4, 5, there are major chords for most songs, and then the 2, 3, and the 6 are minor. Okay? However, this is what you should understand about a lot of contemporary music. The 1, major, that's pretty simple. The 2, minor, like we talked about. But the 3 is not often played as a minor third. Okay, this is what you should know. When you're doing a walk-up, instead of playing this B minor, or B minor 7 in this case, right? What is typically played, what songwriters like to do is play that third interval over the tonic, or the root, which is G. So what this is, when we see a G/B chord, what we mean is we're playing a G major chord, but instead of playing that G as the bass note, we're playing that B as the bass note. So when we play this G over B, we're doing the same finger position. So if we go back to that G5 chord I showed you, okay, basically you're going to just move your middle finger and then play that B on the 3rd fret, on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. So it's the same finger positions except for you playing that B instead of the G on top. Now when you do a walk up, it sounds like this. That's how you give the chord switches movement as you walk up the scale. What a lot of acoustic players do, and this is what you don't want to do, this shows your rookiness, so to speak, is that when you see that G/B or a slash chord on the chord chart, you just play the chord on top of the slash. So you see a G over B, you just play a G chord. Well, that kind of works out okay if you're playing with a bass player and in the context of a full band. If you need to actually play by yourself, going from and back to the G does not have the same movement of, and then going up to that 3rd. You get that walk-up movement like you would have if you had a bass player. So you want to learn, just remember this, the 3rd interval is typically played, or quite often played, as the bass note of the 1. So this would be G over B. Okay, so I beat that point to a pulp, okay? And this video is going on 21 minutes, but this is alright, because this is where you learn how to play. Alright, now we're going to go to this C add 9. Okay, now keeping with, just to review where we've gone so far, we got the G5, right? All G's and D's. We got the A minor 7. Got that open G note in there, kind of tying it together. Then we got G over B, self-explanatory. Then we got the C add 9. Now what's nice about this C add 9, not only is it easy to get to from the G or from that G over B, but there again keeping in step with what's common about the notes that ties these chords together that gives it a smooth transition. Here we have our C, we got our E, which is the major 3rd, we got that open G again. There again, anytime G can be played in a chord, because we're in the key of G, it's going to sound good. Then we got that D right there, okay, which is the 9th interval. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's why it's called a C add 9, because we're adding the 9th interval, which is this high D. Okay, now D is the 5th interval of G. So remember I mentioned earlier, anytime you can play the 5th or the tonic or the root in any of the chords in that key, it's going to sound good. The 1st and the 5 are called perfect intervals, so you want to keep those in there. So that's why this sounds better than this chord, which is a standard C. Right? You got that open G in there, which is good, but putting that D in there ties it together in a stronger way with this G major chord. Okay? Then we go to D, which is the 5th. Right? It's kind of self-explanatory. Now, let's go to this, the 6th, which is E minor. Now, here's a standard E minor. Standard E minor chord. Most beginner guitar players know how to play that. There again, we're going to favor the E minor 7 for the same reasons we favor the A minor 7 over the A minor. Okay? When we add this E minor 7, when we add the 7, and that 7 is this D note. Right? I shouldn't have to explain to you by now that this 7, this D note, is the 5th of G. Right? So anytime we can have that 5th or the tonic in the chord, we like that. That ties the chords together in a better way. Now, here's another thing you can do. Here's an E minor 7, but why don't we go ahead and add that high G? Why not, right? Why not kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Here, we already got the 5th in there. Why not add the 1? right? Why not add the root note, the tonic, the G? G is always going to sound good because that's the key we're playing in. So that gives it a fuller sound. And we got some nice tonality there. Now, this seventh interval is a D major over F sharp. And I'm grabbing this F sharp with my thumb. Now, this D over F sharp is very similar to the G over B. It's the same concept. Just like in the G over B, we're playing the root chord over its third interval. So the third interval of G, 1, 2, 3, is that B. So we're playing the G with a B in the bass note. It's going to be the same thing with this D major over F sharp. So if we do a D major scale, 1, 2, 3, that's F sharp. So we're going to play that D major over F sharp. Okay, and that gives it a nice little walk up. Now, I talked a little bit, and we're going to end here because my video is going on 26 minutes. But I promise, by the way, my subsequent videos will be shorter. Okay, and because I've covered a lot of ground, so I'm going to recommend anyone starting this series that you watch this verse and watch this one first, and then the rest of the videos will be shorter. I already mentioned that the 1, 4, 5 in any key, in any major key, are major chords, and the 2, 3, 6 are minor. Okay, now let's look at this seventh interval. You say, well, which is the seventh? It's the seventh interval. Is it major or is it minor? Well, actually, it's neither. Okay, in standard classical theory, the seventh interval of any key is actually diminished. Okay, so here's a full diminished chord. A lot of tension in that chord. That's an F sharp, fully diminished. Here's a diminished 7. If we play it on the root here. Problem is, in most contemporary worship music, that's not a chord that's often used because of the tension. The tension is so high. And we'll actually talk a little bit in later videos about the use of this chord, the diminished chord. I'm going to do a video just focused on the diminished chord. In a lot of gospel and blues and in jazz, this diminished chord, fantastic. In contemporary worship, a la Chris Tomlin, a la, even Israel, he'll use a diminished chord here and there, but not a whole lot. You just don't see this chord a lot. So, just like the third interval is not typically played in a lot of contemporary Christian music as a minor, right? But rather it's played over the 1. So is the seventh interval, although it's diminished, it's not typically played that way. It's played over the 5th. So notice the 1 and the 5 coming back into play once again. Okay, so that's your D over F sharp chord. All right, so let's just roll through these really quick. G5, A minor 7, G over B, C add 9, D major, E minor 7, D over F sharp, G5. Okay, those are the classic chords. Those are the most popular chords that you might hear played in typical praise and worship music. So this video is officially about to be 30 minutes long, so I need to be wrapping it up. But the thing that I want you to understand is that you need to be familiar with these chord voicings, okay? However you've been practicing the chords in this key, I want you to try to change it. If you haven't been playing in with these tones, you're going to find that your playing is going to be a little bit more polished, have a little bit of a smoother tone, and and you'll be able to do these walk ups and walk downs. Okay, and that's actually a good exercise to practice. So that is the master course in the key of G. Like I said before, I promise that these will actually go a lot quicker, and because I've covered a lot of these, a lot of the foundational principles that you need to move forward. But this is a very good starting point for those of you who are beginner to intermediate and you want to take your playing to another level and actually play with a little more polish. Once again, I'll let you figure that out on your own. I've kind of showed you how I was doing that. So that's another little tidbit. I appreciate you guys paying attention. This video, by the way, is not for the faint of heart. It's for those who really, really want to learn and those who really want to take advantage. You don't need just a 5-minute video just to get your quick fix in. This is for those of you who really want to learn how to play. So I thank you for sticking with it. God bless you, and I will see you later.